That's Mr. Stevie Ray Vaughan. Couldn't stand the
Yeah.
weather. We are talking to Mr. Jeff Mason at Helion Technologies. The reason we played that particular song is it's appropriate. He's in Maryland. It's freaking cold.
Yes, it is. Cold and snowing.
Absolutely. So, with an unexpected downturn in new car sales, dealerships are looking for ways to become more streamlined, and this means cutting costs. Jeff, this is where I'm starting to introduce you. In some instances,
Right.
it means joining the actual 21st century. And of course, we've got Jeff Mason, the Helion Technologies, on the line. I'm going to approach this interview from a different angle and let our guest explain in detail at his own pace on why you should be considering Helion Technologies as your outsourced IT management team. Jeff, officially, welcome to Dealership News.
Thank you. So Helion is the largest managed IT service provider, specifically focusing on the needs of auto and heavy truck dealers. There isn't anyone that's larger than us. And so if you think about it, increasingly, auto and truck dealers rely more and more on technology to fuel their business. So you can't service or sell cars or trucks if your technology fails. And for a lot of dealerships, basically what they rely on is maybe a small team of one or two guys inside of their organization, or maybe they outsource to some local IT outfit that is also relatively small. And it's absolutely impossible for a small team to have the breadth of knowledge that's needed in order to stay on top of all of the new emerging security threats, changing technology, new telephony systems, and so what happens is, in order to save $1, sometimes dealers are penny wise and pound foolish. And so when you have a dealership that's dealing with hundreds of millions of dollars of revenue, if not billions of dollars in revenue, and their technology infrastructure is run by a small team that often isn't certified and again doesn't have the breadth of knowledge to adequately take care of the technology needs of the dealership both today and tomorrow. So also planning for the future, then you're running the risk of having of experiencing some type of technology outage, or even worse, a security breach.
Oh, ditto that. But let's step back for 1 second. We're gonna dig deep in all that good stuff because
Sure.
I love it. I'm it's not boring to me at all. Let's talk about how did you get in the automotive industry? And I know you probably handle IT outsourcing for other companies. Have you always been interested in automotive, or was it something that you've had a lifelong interest in, or is it just perfect for managed IT sources?
So the founder of Helion is a guy named Eric Nachbar. Eric graduated from college, going to with a degree in information technology, and happened to get asked by a local dealer to come in and help them with his internet access. So they were having some problems with the speed of their internet accessibility. And so he went in and helped this dealership, and then that dealership told another dealership, and then that dealership told another dealership. And so since 1997, Helion has only worked for auto and heavy truck dealers. So we are completely 100% focused on auto and heavy truck dealers, and Eric Nachbar has seen it all as it relates to the technology workings and the evolution of technology with the auto and heavy truck dealership world.
Which really gives you a lot of unique insights into IT and how it relates to the automotive industry and dealership needs. Give me an elevator pitch. Let's say you're at NADA and the GM or president of a big dealer group who doesn't work with you currently was on the same elevator. What would now here's a trick, a 30-second elevator pitch sound like?
Yeah, so basically Helion is the largest managed IT service provider in the world, specifically focusing on the needs of automotive and heavy truck dealers. And we provide dealers with the peace of mind that their technology environment is always optimized so that you can focus on selling and servicing cars and trucks.
30 seconds on the dot. That, sir, was phenomenal. You'd be shocked how many of those turn into 2.5, 3 minute harangues.
Yeah.
So here's a question. So we're both advocates. How many dealerships would you say still have server closets or rooms as opposed to those who have everything on the cloud? And then and I guess in the same question, when a dealership calls you for an analysis, what does your checklist look like as you assess their needs?
So I'd say most organizations still have a guy or two guys sitting in a closet full of wires. In fact, there's a great stat that I saw recently that 70% of auto dealers don't even have the most up-to-date antivirus software installed. And so auto dealers, I believe, to a large extent, are not taking seriously the technology environment that these multi-million dollar, hundreds of millions of dollars of business relies on. So I think that there's a great amount of work that needs to be done in order to improve that, especially since you have to keep in mind that hackers are specifically targeting dealers. They target dealers because they know that often the dealership is protected by one or two guys sitting in a closet full of wires, and because they know that dealerships have a lot of large electronic financial transactions going on, and so that's ripe for the picking. So the fact that that 70% of auto dealers do not have the most up-to-date antivirus is very, very scary. As far as a risk assessment goes, what we do initially is we go into an organization, we take a look at their technically, we take a look at their security, their servers, their network. We take a look at all of their vendors, their vendor invoices. So often we can come in and we can take a look at their internet and phone carrier contracts and negotiate a better price for them. Their entire wireless environment. And so most of the time when we go into an organization, we'll find that the equipment that they have is residential quality. That causes them a big set of headaches. And so we'll go in, we'll assess the entire technical infrastructure, and then we provide a proposal for how the dealership can sort of bring themselves up to speed. Once we engage, we act as the virtual CIO for the dealership. So not only do we have a sort of a help desk function that takes care of the daily needs of the dealership, but we're also looking out and planning for tomorrow. How can we best leverage new technology tomorrow? How do we make sure that everyone is always up to date on the most up-to-date software? And how can we take advantage of new technology advancements and protect against new emerging security threats?
So are you a fan of the cloud, or do you maintain the proverbial server banks? How does that work with you guys?
Yeah, so we're a fan of the cloud. And so If you think about it, would you rather two guys in a closet having responsibility for securing your data, or would you rather Microsoft do it? I'd rather Microsoft. And so when you go to the cloud, you're relying on the expertise of some of the largest software companies. The cloud is safe. We all do our banking through the cloud. We live and die, and every other aspect through the cloud. And so again, the cloud is much safer than two guys in a closet full of wires.
Hell, when we die, we end up on the cloud, right? I mean, isn't that what we're taught?
That's right.
Right? And we meet the guy with
That's
the
right.
beard, and uh, it's just the imagery alone of the IT guy, and various companies or businesses that I've worked with. They've got that it's not even a room, it's a closet, and they're in the closet. That's their desk
That's
with
right.
their servers, and boy, do they protect that domain, right?
Yeah, it's their job.
Yeah.
I mean, if for as long as it's messed up, there's always something for them to do.
Absolutely, and or create themselves. There's always
Hmm.
that they
That's
would
right.
right to keep their gigs. It was always trying to get past the gatekeeper was always the toughest thing, especially when we were offering cloud services. But let's talk about well, we talked a little bit about security issues and the obvious vulnerability of car dealerships. There are some common issues. I'd like to know how you guys ameliorate those, and then if you can share with us some of the most flagrant phishing and fraud issues you've exposed over the years, and what are some of the most common scams you see.
Right. So one of the things that's interesting is that I think 90% of all security breaches start with a phishing attempt. And so typically the phishing attempts that we see, it's there's some email that comes to some employee within the organization, and it encourages them one way or another to click a link. And when they click that link, then it launches some type of malware on their system, which then can track their keystrokes or a whole variety of other things that then allows the cyber criminal to penetrate the organization. There's the best way to deal with that is by properly training your staff. So there is no technology, so to speak, that's going to prevent somebody from, clicking a link in an email. It's got to be education. And so we've partnered with a company, and we provide this to all of our clients, a sort of a training program which has very much been gamified. And so it's not like we're taking the staff of a dealer and putting them in a room for a 2-hour seminar, teaching them, sort of how to identify suspicious links and not to click on it. Instead, what a dealer can do is, with the click of a button, is send out some sort of simulated emails to their employees, where if they click a link, they're going to get a little pop-up that then takes them through, a couple of steps, and it lets them know that this is a training protocol. And then there's a whole reporting function that the management of the dealership can then see, so that they can watch their phishability, so to speak, reduce over time as this training program helps to sort of establish a human firewall for them. A couple of the other scams that we see is when once somebody penetrates the organization, they can send an email as somebody else. And so with car dealerships, because it's not uncommon for them to wire large amounts of funds from one place to another, there's circumstances where somebody impersonates somebody by taking their email address and maybe sending an email to the CFO, instructing him, posing as maybe the owner or some other executive at a dealership, and then asking the CFO to wire funds to some bogus account. This has happened multiple times throughout the country, and I know that it's been reported in the press several times. And this is we're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars that often cannot be recovered because they end up in the hands of some foreign entity somewhere. It's important to keep in mind that the people that are doing the hacking, they're not like you would imagine. They're not a guy in a hoodie sitting in his parents' basement hacking into dealerships and other businesses. They're often very sophisticated foreign entities that have much more capacity, capability, and technology than the guy or two that are sitting in a closet full of wires.
Lot of crooks out there. I got to protect those dealerships from them. And one thing that strikes me as one of the biggest benefits to having Helion Technologies on board is streamlining costs. You're eliminating an IT guy, which has got to run you 80 to 100 grand a year. I would say if he's worth his weight of salt, maybe a little bit less. But also there's those risks that that a credit card is going to be compromised, that they're going to break into your accounts and wreak a little bit of havoc. Is there any way of putting a number on what the average dealer could save on an annual basis? I mean, we know we're eliminating certain issues with IT costs, but also if you also factor in the potential fraud issues.
Yeah, at my fingertips, I don't have that, but simply all you have to think about is what is the cost of an hour of downtime? If you can't sell or service a car or cars for an hour, what does that cost you? Anyone that's listening to this that's working at a dealership probably knows what that number is. And most downtime lasts a lot longer than an hour, and a hack is even worse. So you have to think about, if you're hacked and personal financial information is stolen from your organization, you have an obligation to announce that publicly. And so there was recently a survey that was done that found that 84% of people that have bought a car from a dealership would not ever go back to that dealership if they found out that they were hacked, or that they had a security breach. And so it's not only a hit to your ability to sell and service cars, but it's also potential catastrophically damaging event that will basically ruin your reputation. And so the dollar figure that you could put on that is pretty significant.
Yeah, there's that story of the fellow who was he was stealing money from his car dealership. He disappeared. He was taking money also from customers in pre-sales. I think it was for I don't know if it was I think it was for the Tesla, and he disappeared. That, I think something like this might actually be able to prevent something along those lines. Although you never know. Everyone comes up with these great schemes, and like you said, they're very complicated, very sophisticated operations. So what do you guys have in the pipeline for 2019 that's cool?
As far as product or service goes?
Both.
Yeah, so one of the main things that we're rolling out now, and in fact, the official rollout just started today, is we've partnered with a company called KnowBe4, and so KnowBe4 provides this great technology that I had mentioned earlier, where it trains people within a dealership how to avoid a phishing scam, and it does so in a really friendly and engaging manner. And so it's very, very effective. It also has a whole wide variety of reporting capabilities, so that the management of an organization could sort of monitor as their staff is becoming more and more of a human firewall. And so for our clients, we set that whole thing up for them. We configure it appropriately for their organization, and that's a big rollout that we're working on now with our team. So that's probably the biggest thing at the moment.
Fantastic. Where are you going to be in 5 years? Where will Jeff Mason be in 2024?
Oh, me personally, or the company as a whole?
You personally, we're getting personal here.
All right. So I have every intention of being right where I am here at Helion. I think that Helion has great growth potential. I think that over the next 5 years, I think Helion will probably at least double in size. And so when you say that to an organization, sometimes they get concerned that the level of quality of service that you provide might not be the same as it is currently. But one of the things that come with scale, which again, like I mentioned earlier, we are the largest currently managed IT service provider, specifically working for auto and truck dealers. We have implemented a wide variety of quality assurance, both people and processes within our organization to ensure that our 5,000th customer is served with the same level of quality as our first. And so, like I mentioned earlier, I think that there is most dealerships don't have the proper knowledge and scale of organization sort of managing their technology infrastructure. And for as long as that happens, I think that there's great risk for dealers, and I think that we're the only one currently that can sort of fill that role. And so I think that the growth potential for Helion is tremendous.
Well, I totally agree with you on both the threat assessment and the opportunity for growth at Helion Technologies. Folks, that is Jeff Mason at Helion Technologies. This is Kelly Kleiman. We want to thank Jeff. Jeff, thank you.
Thank you
for popping by here. And that's the Dealership News Podcast for a Friday afternoon. Have a great weekend, everybody.